Okay, this is just a quick 2-minute description of graphing a transformed function. So if we start with this guy, I know it didn't look like this to begin with. What was the parent for this? X squared. It was just y equals x squared. And then they did this stuff to it, which made it transformed. Okay. Hopefully you know where y equals x squared would be. Would everybody please graph that on your iPad? So you've got it there and ready to move? Okay, now this next part relies on you being able to tell which way it's telling you to move this thing. Okay? It's telling you to move it -5. What does that mean? Down 5. It's very easy to think left or right 5, but it's down 5. It would have to be on the inside to be different. And this x right here has a little parentheses around just the x. That's showing you that there's nothing on the inside. This negative, that's on the outside just like this. So they're both up-down things. How do you do a negative that's an up-down negative? It's a reflection over which way if it's up-down reflection. Which axis is that going over? Come on now. It's going over x. It's going over the x-axis. All right. So go ahead and do those 2 changes to it. And then you might ask the question, well, what should I do first? Well, I've got a simple way you can remember that. This slide right here. Do your reflections first. Okay? Now let's go back to that example 2. And do it in that order. Do your reflection first. Now, to check if you did it right, they reflect upside down. That means it goes over like this. Then you should have moved it down 5. Makes it something like that. Raise your hand if you did that right. Okay, good. And how do you check and see if you did it right? A lot of you are going to think you've got them right, and you're not. How will you know? I make an XY chart, and I check to see if I did it right by plugging some points into my function. What are some good points to put in? I strongly recommend 0 and 1 and 2 and maybe even a -1. And watch what happens. If I stick a 0 in right here, I get 0 squared is 0, -0 is 0, 0 minus 5 is -5. There. I put the number in and I see what the answer is. Now is 0, -5 on my graph that I made? And since it is on my graph that I made, I know I'm doing it right. If I really want to be extra careful, maybe I should check another point. So I put in like 1. If 1 squared is 1, and then I make it negative. Why did I square it first? Because exponents come before multiply. So 1 squared first is 1. Make it negative, -1. -1 minus 5, -6. Is 1, -6 on my graph? Yes, it is. Can you imagine then if you had had your graph over here, you'd been like, wait a minute, those points are not showing up on my graph. I must have did something wrong. And you say, oh, I moved it 5 to the right instead of moving it 5 down. So it's a way of checking yourself. So that's all I have for you for an example of graphing a transformed function.